thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Friday, June 7th, you guys. And today is, Rico, it's for you, bro. It's National Chocolate Ice Cream Day. I know because you're lactose intolerant. I know. I
prefer the term African-American ice cream.
Mm-hmm. It's also World Caring Day. Not Karen Day, but Caring Day. Okay? Don't want to get anyone confused on that. It's also National Oklahoma Day. National Doughnut Day. I'm surprised the cannabis people haven't came out with an event since today is National Doughnut Day for today. It's also National VCR Day because everyone still has one of those in their home.
Shout out to Betamax.
Yes, and it's National Daniel Boone Day. What do you have to say about that, Rico?
He was a colonizer, and he was a.
You wouldn't just call him an explorer?
No, I would call him a colonizer, and I would call him a philanderer. I would call him
not a philanthropist.
Or connected though.
Or a guy that likes to wear funny hats, maybe.
But you have to be a philanderer to be a philanthropist.
Oh boy. Well, nonetheless, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet, and we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, that's right, it's the dope dad himself here, showing up on time, and not only that, he also possibly did his hair today. That's right. It is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. Look at that. Look at that hair. Look at that hair right there. Oh, yeah.
Man, there's some good growth in there, man.
I bet.
You know? Botanicals, all natural juices and berries.
Oh, boy. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole.
I don't want you to touch me with your pole. Never, Jason.
Yeah. Whoa, pause.
No, did he? Randy Gregory. So Randy Gregory is an extremely talented 7-year NFL veteran, currently playing outside linebacker for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. With career earnings of $33.2 million, I say it's safe to say that this brother has done good for himself as a professional athlete, or at least in the NFL, a league notorious for underpaying top talent with an average player career length of 3.3 years. So with 7 years in the bag, Gregory's others in his position. He's also got a CVS receipt long list of injuries and NFL conduct-related suspensions that he's had to overcome over that same period. And when it comes to conduct-related suspensions in pro sports, it's really not out of the norm for there to be a financial penalty tied to that punishment. While most players in his position do the time, pay the fine, and move on, Gregory reportedly wants to take the NFL and one of his former teams, the Denver Broncos, to court over $500,000 in fines. According to the Denver Post's Parker Gabriel, the pass rusher filed a lawsuit in Arapahoe County District Court on Wednesday, claiming discrimination for being fined over a year plus of taking medications, including THC, for disabilities, according to this report. And in the complaint, Gregory reportedly alleges he was fined a total of $532,500 for repeatedly testing positive for THC since March 2023, though it doesn't specifically note how many times he was fined or if all of those fines came with the Broncos. The NFL no longer suspends players for marijuana use, but it was still a banned substance, and players are subject to fines if they test positive. The Post also notes that the Broncos would have played no role in the administration of fines, which is under the purview of the NFL and enforced in accordance to the collective bargaining agreement between the league and the NFL Players Association. Gregory claims he was prescribed dronabinol, which is synthetic THC to help address social anxiety disorder and PTSD. Apparently, he sought permission to use it during non-work hours in March 2023, then applied for a therapeutic use exemption that May. He was denied both times. Gregory's agent, Peter Schaefer, told the Post that this is a serious effort by Randy to push the NFL forward on alternative methods for pain management options. If a doctor prescribes hydrocodone, that's completely legal, and much worse for the player. Yet the player does not get suspended or fined for that use. Randy's not trying to buck the system, but he's paying $500,000 in fines for something that anybody else in the state of Colorado can do. All we want is reasonable accommodation to allow Randy to treat his disabilities at the direction of his treating physician, end quote. Yahoo News' Jack Bayer says that the lawsuit reportedly claims that Gregory was denied a reasonable accommodation for those diagnosed disabilities, which it says is discriminatory under Colorado law. Banned substance use has been a career-threatening issue for Gregory in the past, as he missed much of the 2016 season, the 2017 season, and the entire 2019 season due to a litany of failed drug tests. He's trying to get his Ricky Williams on, I see. Mm-hmm. There will probably be plenty of players and agents following this lawsuit from afar. The NFL has never been shy about finding its players small fortunes. One area where players aren't going to be happy until they feel or mental stress. I don't know how much of a chance Gregory has to win this lawsuit, but I sure do hope that he does. And I hope all the other players who've been screwed over for similar infractions get their money too. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News. Get your money, black man. Get your money.
This guy. I mean, do you think he's just doing this because he's in Colorado?
No, he has. I mean, maybe because Colorado has a law against that. But
that's what I'm saying.
He has a serious gripe with them. He actually has a documented medical issue, and he actually filed for an exemption, and they denied him that. They want to keep on pumping you full of opioids that will literally take years off of your life.
But them as his employer, don't they get to dictate that? Rico? By the NFL being his employer, don't they get to dictate that? They can say, hey, if you're going to take this, we're not going to pay you. Am I wrong? Did you go on mute or something, Rico? Because I don't know. Okay.
I'm not a lawyer.
You're not a lawyer. Oh, my God. You have got to be kidding me. That is your response. I'm not a lawyer.
I am a talking head.
Just following the advice from the Pot Brothers at Law and shutting the fuck up, Jay.
Fair enough, Matthew. Fair enough. We appreciate
only legal advice I know. Shut the fuck up.
No, he was suspended 3 seasons, and he lost plenty of money. He still made $33 million over his career, but he lost a ton of money while he was on the Cowboys for smoking weed, right? So if you were smoking weed and you know that that is something that helps you with your anxiety, you know that's something that helps you with your PTSD, yet you can't take this thing, and you're still a high performer at your job to the point where people keep on signing you for multi-million-dollar contracts after you've had this troubled past, right? And you try to do the right thing, and the doctor prescribes you a synthetic version of something that you know that can help treat these ailments, and now the NFL won't let you use that. I think that's grounds for suing. In my personal opinion, my personal non-lawyer opinion, I think
he'd have a stronger case if he told them that it was all THC-A that was in his system. Just saying. I think he'd have a better case.
They're allowed to bring scientific experts to the courtroom.
Are you going to go and testify for him, Dr. T?
I would. This is a very strategic move. I mean, many players are using cannabis.
He's muted.
So
no, he's not.
He's not.
What's that?
No, keep on. Continue, Dr. T.
So it's very strategic to get prescribed Marinol, so that explains your positive test from a legally prescribable.
Yeah, but they didn't prescribe him Marinol. They prescribed him Durabinol.
That's what Marinol is.
They call Durabinol Marinol?
Dronabinol is the generic name for Marinol.
Got it. Okay, all right. I was a little confused by that, so thank you for that clarification.
No worries. So this is a strategic move. I mean, many people do it, and to bring a lawsuit against the NFL is going to help a lot of players who are using cannabis and are still getting fined for it. So I'm sure a lot of players are behind him on this.
It'll be interesting to see if the players' union decides to back him on this, because the players' union was it. What's that?
No, it's the NFLPA. I want to always say that they do not have a union. That's a problem with the NFL. They do not have a union. The NFLPA.
Maybe that's why the NFL is so great.
No, that's why the NFL gets screwed over, and that's why these players are more screwed over than anybody else. They have the shortest career span. They are groomed
just a tough
by
sport.
Asshole, racist ass coaches from yay high. Yes, they are.
Did you say yay high? Is that a height limit? Yay high?
Pop Warner age, they're groomed by white men, wealthy white men that don't tell them from the beginning you have less than a 1% chance of making it in the NFL. But their bodies are tortured over and over and over again, every single level of that, and putting them in a terrible place, not just on the field and not just for them as growing young men, but in society. Period. You're taught to harness these violent powers that God gifted you, and then what happens when you get hurt? You get thrown out on the street. So I hope he gets his money, and I hope this opens up a whole litany of lawsuits against the NFL. Screw them all.
Wow, vicious, Rico.
Yeah,
man, I went through this.
I'm not faulting you. I'm not faulting, you know what I'm saying, your position. I'm just saying. Ultimately, I hope the players can be able to consume cannabis. That's what I would like to see, and then I think we would see a lot of CTE have a big drop in the NFL. But I think for some reason they're scared of that for some reason, and I can't figure out why.
You know why? Money.
Well, they have to admit that their sport is dangerous.
Everyone knows that football is dangerous. Every physical sport in America is dangerous.
Right. But when it comes to insurance, and it comes to the fact that basically bashing your head in a football helmet leads to CTE, the evidence is overwhelming, and I don't think you could make the case that, we can make football safer. You can't make football safer, right? Football is always going to lead to
football,
CTE. Yeah.
It's like you can't make driving safer. It's the same thing.
I think, and
you can get people out of the car, use those automatic ghost cars.
Yeah, those things don't work.
If they promoted the use of cannabis, we know that the cannabinoids are neuroprotective.
Yep.
And it reduce neuroinflammation. And there's all kinds of evidence to believe that, again, a diet of cannabis or having cannabis in the fatty tissue of your brain will help, alleviate the myriad of things that come along with concussion and traumatic brain injury, including CTE.
Football is also just the last sport that's full of this, gaslit fake version of this fascistic America. So they're all into God and warplanes and Jesus, and of course they don't want cannabis.
I don't know. Football to me is the greatest sport America has, period.
Well, you love Trump, Jason. It checks out. Story checks out.
I didn't say I liked MMA. I said I like football.
Speaking of which, oh my God, I've just gotten enough of Joe Rogan talking about everybody at the UFC applauding for Donald Trump. It's like, great. So now we know that everybody with a sub 85 IQ loves Donald Trump. Great.
Oh boy. On that, we're going to go to a commercial and we're going to be
UFC.
right back. We're going to be right back.
Oh man, that was weird.
Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Was it collapsing?
Yeah, it wasn't good.
If there's anybody on our team that represents a certain aspect of American life more than this person, I don't know.
What, truth, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness?
Come to the stage. The highest Republican in every single room, known for smoking the best weed in the world. High at 9 News head honcho and Donald Trump's right hand. Jason Beck.
Oh, yeah. Rico, actually, I would probably be the left hand because I'm left-handed and I don't have a lot of mobility with my right. Fair enough. Okay.
But you passed the Dutchie on the left-hand side.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't be passing to Trump, so you're his right-hand man.
Whatever. However it works. However it works for your dysfunctionality is.
How do you give them strangers?
Whoa. Let me tell you something, though. I got some good news, you guys, because P.D. Pablo is going to be turning up because North Carolina tribe could launch adult use marijuana sales in 30 to 75 days, you guys. A Native American tribe in North Carolina that began medical marijuana sales less than 2 months ago now is preparing to launch an adult use market. The Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, the Tribal Council, voted on Thursday to amend tribal code to allow the sale of adult use marijuana, the Smoky Mountain News reported. Ordinance number 63, which changes tribal code to allow adult use sales in addition to medical cannabis sales, passed by an 8-2 vote, according to the Asheville Citizen-Times. Marijuana remains illegal in North Carolina, but Native American tribes such as the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, the EBCI, are permitted to establish marijuana programs on tribal lands outside the scope of and enforcement of state officials. The EBCI began MMJ sales on April 20th at a 10,000 square foot dispensary, Great Smoky Cannabis Co., on the Koala Boundary. The dispensary is overseen by Koala Enterprises, and adult use sales on EBCI land will not be immediate, however. The EBCI are looking at 30 to 45 days before tribal members can buy adult use products and a 60 to 75 day range for the general public. Koala Enterprises General Manager Forrest Parker said during a May 30th work session, according to the Citizen-Times, and Thursday's decision by the Tribal Council was set up last September when EBCI members approved adult use sales by a vote of roughly 2,400 to 1,000, you guys. Once adult use marijuana sales begin, the tribe's MMJ program will continue to serve customers with EBCI issued cards, including non-tribal North Carolina residents 21 and older, according to the Smoky Mountain News, you guys. Well, Petey Pablo in the building. He's about to turn up, and all I can say is North Carolina, y'all about to be burning up, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. This is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News Hour. What do y'all got to say?
So it's not clear, are they able to purchase and take it out of the reservation and use it there?
You know, I think that's going to be the next story that we cover, which is going to be the response by the North Carolina State Troopers in regards to this response. So I imagine we'll know that next week, Dr. T, when some more news releases come out. But I can't imagine that North Carolina State Highway Patrol or the state troopers or whatnot not signaling some type of pushback in regards to this.
Yeah, it's conflicting laws.
But at the same time, too, Dr. T, I mean, North Carolina is probably the best state out of all 50 for THC-A sales overall of flower.
I don't know what that means.
What it means is they have a very robust THC-A flower market going on in North Carolina, one of the most robust states when it comes to sales of THC-A flower.
I don't know what THC-A flower is.
THC-A flower is the stuff that everyone's selling weed around by with a farm bill. Dr. T.
It's weed, but they're flying under the banner of the Farm Bill, saying that it's legal because they're not decarboxylating, which it clearly says you have to do. So it's highly risky.
I examine COA all the time. Every single flower I've ever seen has THC-A in it. So when you say THC-A flower to me, I'm like, that's awful.
It's just
correct. I would make that same argument.
On that COA, Dr. T, do they also show the total THC after decarboxylation?
Yes.
Dr. T. Go ahead, Dr. Mark. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the total THC after decarboxylation of THC-A flower will show that is nothing but cannabis and not hemp. They're just trying to exploit that so-called loophole, which isn't a loophole at all, because if you read the regulations, they tell you have to decarboxylate. Simple as that.
So basically, Dr. T, I would totally have you come testify for me in a case stating that it's all THC-A as a medical professional, just so you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, just you have to look at the lab analysis. You'll see. Believe me,
Oh, I love this. This is so good.
It's Pride Month, y'all. It's THC-A.
Oh, God. Oh, boy, Rico. You have any thoughts on this, Matthew, Elise, any of you guys?
Just wish weed was legal in North Carolina, Jay. That's about it.
It is. It's about to be legal on this tribal land.
I mean everywhere. So many times when doing the news here, I just am astounded because I realize I have to be confronted with the fact that most of the United States is 10 to 15 years behind this little bubble on the West Coast that we live in. And that's just sad for me.
That's why
more weed, more mushrooms, and more people just relaxing, bro. Just relax.
Yeah, those Republicans down there are super mad. They're big mad because tobacco ain't making no money no more.
Oh, word.
Oh, there's a lot of them that are making money off hemp.
They couldn't get a jump on the market, and they mad because Native Americans want to do their thing on their land. Let's talk about that, Jason.
I don't necessarily agree with that analysis, but okay, you're entitled to your opinion.
Okay, I knew you wouldn't agree with it, but
who says tobacco companies aren't making money?
Exactly.
Yep.
That part. Let's just start with that part.
They're relying on the filthy habit of cigarette smokers to fill their billion-dollar coffers so they could still spend millions keeping cannabis good and illegal.
And Mathieu St. Germain, to your last statement, I guess all you really would ultimately have to say is weed for the people then, right?
I want weed for all the people, yes, sir.
Weed for all the people.
Let the tribes do what they want, too. We've done enough to
Yes,
them.
ma'am.
Loud,
Here.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand if they're already doing medical sales, why they can't just jump into the adult use sales. I don't understand what type of infrastructure they need to get going in order to start these sales and start collecting money for their tribe. But I think they should get on it a little bit faster. It's not that difficult.
We covered a story on High at 9 News a couple months ago, Jason. You may remember where the story was the people who are driving off the reservation in North Carolina, right, are no longer in a jurisdiction where that's allowed. So you're taking some risk by driving onto the reservation, getting your weed, and driving off.
That's true. It is viewed. Reservations are viewed as, in essence, as foreign countries in that sense. So when you do drive on and off a tribal land, that is basically like stepping into a new country, like if you walked into Canada or if you walked into Mexico or anything else like that.
It's a sovereign country, right?
They're sovereign land. Yes. Yep.
It kind of reminds me of how in Barcelona, that loophole where you can purchase and consume in a social club, but as soon as you exit the social club, you're not supposed to have any cannabis on you, and you can get searched without they don't need a reason to search you. They can just say you look like a pothead or you came out of a club, we're going to search you. And if you have cannabis, then you are, at risk for being ticketed or arrested.
Yeah, there were some people at Cannabis that got arrested just like that, if I recall correctly, just this past year.
Every year it happens.
Don't be that guy or girl. But nonetheless, we're going to keep this train rolling. We are going to roll right on into Dr. Gene Talleyrand. He's the founder of the CESC and the creator of Medican, where you should be getting your medical cannabis recommendations. That's right, here to set the narrative and also probably write a recommendation for your parents as well. There's none other than Dr. Gene Talleyrand.
Thank you, Jason. Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah.
So my story today comes from Marijuana Moment. An AMA study finds most consumers use cannabis to treat health issues, but very few call it medical, by Ben Adlin. A new study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association looked at survey responses from over 175,000 patients from UCLA and found that 17% reported cannabis use in the past 3 months. The respondents were from geographically diverse areas and were surveyed during their annual medical wellness visits between January 2021 and May 2023. While 76% of patients reported using cannabis for health-related symptoms, very few identified as medical cannabis users. 16% said their use was for strictly medical reasons. 31% said their use was for non-medical and medical reasons. But more than 3/4 of users reported using cannabis to manage a range of health symptoms like pain, stress, and sleep issues. Given these discrepant findings, the authors wrote, it may be more useful to ask the patients what symptoms they're using cannabis for, rather than relying on patient self-identification as a recreation and or medical user. This aligns with another study that found that medical cannabis use is clinically under-recognized, they added. And without specifically screening the medical cannabis use, clinicians may not ask, and patients often do not disclose their use. We provide a crucial point of care opportunity for clinicians to understand their risk for cannabis use disorder, reported the UCLA researchers. The prevalence of cannabis use and the risk for disordered use were highest among male patients and younger adults. Comparable with findings from a recent study, more than 1/3 of patients using cannabis are at moderate to high risk for cannabis use disorder. This group could benefit from primary care clinician-based brief interventions to prevent those from developing more serious cannabis use disorder and to evaluate and refer high-risk users for possible addiction treatment, the report concluded. At the state level, most laws still draw a bright line between medical and non-medical use, with laws commonly requiring a doctor's recommendation and registration as a medical cannabis patient. But in some jurisdictions, that's slowly changing. In Delaware, for example, the governor this year signed into a bill that would allow patients over 65 to self-certify without the need for a doctor's recommendation. The law also expanded the medical cannabis program by removing the list of specific qualifying conditions. Along with this study, JAMA published an editorial about the new findings and that they are meant to assist health professionals in advocating for stronger regulatory oversight of cannabis products. From my perspective, the problem with this study is their conclusion. They gathered great data on the prevalent use of cannabis for health-related symptoms. However, rather than discuss the medical benefits of cannabis use, the UCLA researchers focused on cannabis use disorder. 66% of cannabis users have low to no risk for cannabis use disorder. In comparison, the risk for alcohol use disorder is 2 or 3 times greater. 75% of patients are using cannabis to manage health symptoms. Real outcomes are more important than potential risks. The researchers might have concluded that clinicians should learn about the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis, managed correctly, can be used to improve health rather while reducing cannabis use disorder. Instead, they are discouraging new users who might have found cannabis safe and effective. Despite the attempt, these UCLA scientists maintain a negative perception of cannabis. It's no wonder patients are underreporting their use, as they are likely to be referred for addiction treatment. This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High at 9 News.
Interesting, Dr. T. Very, very interesting, if I do say so myself.
So it's just what I suspected. 3/4 of you guys are using it for health-related symptoms.
But and that just goes to the point of when we say all use is medical use, right, Dr. T? Because a lot of people don't even realize that they're using it for medical uses, and don't necessarily claim that, even though that they actually are.
Well, but something that Dr. T has pointed out a couple times when we've had this discussion on High at 9 is accepted medical use. So like in Schedule 1, right, Dr. T, it says that there's no accepted medical use. Right. And so the distinction between medical use and accepted medical use is an FDA sanctioned clinical trial, correct?
Well, it's currently now an HHS recommended designation, as they've recommended Schedule 3 without FDA trial. So it's really HHS that's in charge of classifying in some way.
Right, but I guess the distinction, so we always knew that there was medical use for cannabis, and, you know, again, the U.S. government's own patent on the neuroprotective properties of cannabinoids tells us that, yeah, there is a medical use. But you drew a distinction when we were talking about scheduling on accepted medical use being something that has to be proven in a clinical trial versus something that is just, oh, we have some laboratory results that show that we can reduce neuroinflammation or show that we can kill cancer cells. Well, killing cancer cells in a petri dish versus actually having clinical data on humans, I think crosses that bridge of, I think what you referred to is, I want to say it's accepted medical use, and that's exactly the language that is in the Schedule 1 thing, is that there is no accepted medical use. So there could be a medical use, but it's not an accepted medical use. Is that right? Am I using terminology?
Well, I mean, that's the point. You're exactly right. And that's the point that HHS argued to the Department of Justice. They said, now that there are thousands of doctors who are accepting the medical use of cannabis, then we are saying that without the FDA, it's an accepted medical use. And then, of course, there are lots of studies showing its therapeutic effects. And so that's where you get the medical, and that's why they recommended rescheduling. So they changed their tune. I mean, they were using the old tune before, and this year they changed it by saying, okay, there's a lot of docs out there giving recommendations, accepting the use of cannabis as medicine. So now it is accepted medical use.
Fascinating.
DOJ didn't like it, but they had to take it.
They definitely did not like that. That's for sure. Oh, man. You any thoughts on this, Rico?
Yeah, I mean, I'd echo your sentiments that like all use is medical use. Period. Like whether you want to call it medicine or not, cannabis is medicine. It's just medicine that you can enjoy. And it has a fraction of the side effects, the negative side effects that these bullshit chemicals that, so-called medical industrial industry wants to pump.
Well, my point is like, my point is like, even if you don't think that you're using cannabis for a medical use, and let's just say you just want to smoke cannabis for the sake of smoking cannabis, you actually technically are using it medically, even though you don't realize it, because your body is going to be experiencing all of the amazing health benefits from cannabis, whether you want to accept those or not.
Right. I think it'll be interesting to see, decades down the line, a lot of the ailments that we've been dealing with, like were they just because we had a endocannabinoid deficiency, right?
It's very true. Very true. It's probably going to
be. And it's kind of like, we're talking about how finely divided the English language is when we say medical use versus accepted medical use. It's like, okay, right? I mean, so it's like, how finely divided is the English language? So if it's accepted by the individual who's using it, it's accepted use, right? But it's not accepted by the pharmaceutical company, healthcare dictatorship that we live in, which wants to prescribe you billion-dollar pharmaceuticals paid for by billion-dollar drug insurance, bought at billion-dollar drugstore, right? I mean, isn't this truly just a money play?
Well,
that's why we didn't go into law school, Mark.
Fair enough. And on that, we're gonna roll right into a commercial, and we're gonna be right back. The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure that you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it, you'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. Oh, and also one other thing. Thank you all for tuning in daily. We just got 625,000 views on our channel, and so thank you as we continue to climb up to the million. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla.
Man, I'm telling you, Jason, you look so small next to Smokey.
It's cute. It's cute. Well, I mean, he's really tall. He's really, really tall.
Up next, we got the new professor in the dark himself. Every week he comes and blesses us with the scientific information and education that we all need. So I hope you guys got your blue books. They still got blue books in college, Dr. Mark?
Whoa.
Yeah, get your blue books ready. Take notes. And if not, you're getting dumber. Get ready for Dr. Mark Scialdone.
Oh shit, he's got his blue book. Look at that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. A blue book. laboratory notebook full of all kinds of stuff. Well, happy Friday, everybody. Hope you guys are having a great week and hope you have some great plans for the weekend. My story today typically I do something related to chemistry or Delta 9 or hemp intoxicating cannabinoids, THC-A. Today we're going to take a break and, on the lighter side of the news, tell you a story about a fish fan being banned from the Sphere for taking a bong rip. And it comes out of Rolling Stone. And his quote was, "I was actually supposed to go to Dead & Company tonight," reveals a man now indefinitely barred from Madison Square Garden entertainment venues. So, a fish fan. Oh my gosh. I have a firewall. I can't read this. Wait a second. Let me try to get this story again. You're giving me a firewall here, Jason.
Hold on. Dr. Mark, I'm going to email it to you. I will email it to you. Give me just a second, and we're going to roll into our next correspondent while we wait on that. We are going to roll right on in to Miss Elise McRoberts. She is the Hashinista. She is a pre-roll judge for the Emerald Cup, and she is constantly helping women be. That's right. At least we know what you're doing. You're helping women show the bigger side, to be bigger and better. That's right. It is none other than Miss Elise McRoberts.
Wow. Thank you, Jason Beck. It was really nice to see you and MSG and the fellow Emerald Cup judges on Tuesday up at Yokayo Ranch. And yeah, I have comments on that fish story. I can't wait to talk about that when the professor reads it. But first, we've got more sad news today coming out of California. We all saw and heard the story yesterday about Michigan beating us in state sales, but today's story hits even closer to home, especially for me as I'm in Marin County. This is the San Francisco Examiner. The headline reads, "San Francisco cannabis sales slip continues in 2024. And I know I've got a few other Bay Area locals on here, so guys, get ready for hearing what we already know, but here's the data. So in the first 3 months of 2024, San Francisco recorded $46.7 million in taxable cannabis sales, the first time in at least 5 years that sales dipped below $50 million. This represents a $5.6 million decrease from the previous quarter and a $7.1 million less than the same last year. The latest numbers, courtesy of the California Department of Tax and Fee Administration, mark a 35% decline since the peak in sales in mid-2021. San Francisco sales continue to slide. Despite the decline, San Francisco remains a leader in per capita cannabis sales. During the first 3 months of 2024, there was a $55 in cannabis sales per resident average, a high consumption rate compared to other parts of the state. Historically, San Francisco's per capita cannabis sales were nearly 4 times higher than those in San Diego and Los Angeles. However, recent data shows a narrowing gap. San Francisco's current per capita sales are now only 50% higher than San Diego's and twice as high as Los Angeles. So we're still higher than both San Diego and LA. Yay. Despite decline, per capita sales are still high, so that's not too bad, but both San Diego and Los Angeles actually saw increases in sales in 2020 and 21 before plateauing, while San Francisco has continued to decline since its peak. This decline in San Francisco's taxable cannabis sales comes as daily marijuana use among Americans has become more common than daily alcohol use, according to recent research. And that's the end of the story by Evan Wylage. I really look forward to hearing what my brothers think of this. As, like I said, we've got locals here who've been experiencing it, as well as, Rico and Jason, you're in LA. You're only, buying or smoking 50% more than us. And at the same time, this is at a time when Americans are supposed to be smoking more than ever. So where are those sales going? I think we all know that answer.
The trap.
The trap.
Well, yeah. What do you guys think of this? I mean, let's hear it.
They want to charge such high taxes out there to be able to purchase and buy and just live in general. Not to mention they're not fighting any crime, so that you have so many people that are making this mass exodus out of San Francisco.
Okay, Jason, thanks for the Twitter talking points.
Anytime.
To the story.
Anytime, Matthew. Anytime.
My example would be, let's look at Cozy Cubes. Cozy Cubes are delicious, made with rosin, a 300 milligram pack for $30. The THC limits, on per package as well as total buy are one of the things that's hurting the legal shops. The other thing is the way that California initiated their fee structure. Beyond the separate sales tax for California, the separate sales tax for San Francisco, separate cannabis tax for San Francisco, California excise tax set ridiculously high, and then every 6 months when they don't meet their benchmark for sales, it goes up again, as if raising the tax is going to somehow motivate everybody to buy more of this expensive ass weed. So you're really approaching a point in San Francisco where you're paying 40% plus taxes on anything you buy. When you can get an ounce of like the best weed in the world, to quote my friend Jason Beck, $150 to $200, why would you do that? Why would you go to a store and spend $80 on an eighth of some similar flower? It doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And they have this news that Michigan overtook California in legal sales, and again, that makes sense as well. In California, we have an extant black market that's been going for 50, 60 years. And I think the state regulators would have been a lot smarter to try to work with the market instead of against it. And in their rush to get all their corporate cronies installed at the top of this industry in California, they've really just crushed it and pushed or the majority of the business back to the folks who deserve it, which are the folks with dollar level grows who actually care about what they're doing and what they're curating and what they're presenting.
Mm-hmm. I agree with everything you said right there, Matthew.
Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Way too many taxes.
We're gonna continue to see more and more of this, man. They need to lower the taxes and increase the freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Let more open this shit up. It'll be interesting when cannabis actually does become a commodity, because it is not right now. We always talk about the commoditization of flower prices because it's still federally illegal, which means it's not a commodity technically. To see what pricing actually looks like and see if any of this will be corrected. But I don't know, man. Schedule 3 coming.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you think about it, our consumers here, are some of the mature consumers, and the ones who probably are the highest users too, are again the ones who already have someone in the traditional market that they can shop with, and they're going to, those mass amounts of sales aren't going to go to a licensed dispensary. And again, those are the people who are consuming more frequently, buying more. So that's going to continue to decline. I mean, I can't really afford to shop in a licensed shop. I smoke hash and want to buy a lot of that in the traditional market. I can get 3 times as much better quality for a third of the price.
Yeah, especially in Northern California,
mm-hmm.
Where you guys have the best of the best in the world.
Well, when I'm there, at least. Just saying.
We can't live without you. We can't live without you.
That's right. Hey, I love it, Dr. T. Hey, and Matthew, to your point in regards, because we did cover that story yesterday about the California market and the Michigan market, and just so you know, that is a skewed study, and I'm spelling that SKU apostrophe D.
Why is that?
It's a SKU apostrophe D study, Mathieu St. Germain, because it's only based off items sold, not actual any types of weight or volumetric equivalent.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah, that's why it's a skewed study, SKU apostrophe D, Mathieu St. Germain.
Well, if we counted all the traditional sales here in California and all the product going out to other states and all of that, I'm sure we would still be leading at number one.
I don't think we should quantify that either, Elise. I think we should quantify the amount of production that is happening within the state. I think that's a better metric.
Yeah.
All right.
Because all those products are going somewhere, and all that weed just isn't getting thrown in the dumpster for homeless people to go rummage through.
I think we should just look the other way, you guys.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus taught. That's what weed Jesus taught us to do.
Mm-hmm.
Turn the other cheek.
I've had homeless people throw weed back at me in San Francisco.
I believe that.
I don't want it. They have their own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you raise a good point. Quality assurance is not it needs to be improved at the stores. Packaging methods. It's a perishable product. Turnover. Being able to describe it better. There's some work to to be done.
I just feel like
some of the stores are doing it.
I just feel like Dr. T. I just feel like it would be a lot better if you were able to get your product tested and be able to sell it in bulk, like in pound form, to a dispensary, and then allow the dispensary to just do a deli style of that pound. I think the consumer would be a lot happier as far as with the overall product. The stores would be happier because the product would last longer because they'd be able to store it properly. And I just feel like this consumer packaged good game is part of the downfall of quality cannabis in California.
And they still do deli style in Oregon, and it is way better.
Yep.
Actually, look at all the jars. You can see what you're doing. A good bud tender, you can kind of like remote control them to grab the actual nugs that you want. And it's just a more fun experience. And
I miss
big
it.
part of cannabis is these rituals and these little touch points of the experience. I think we've lost so much of that in California. Now it's just, which die cut mylar or jar is the most appealing to me from 8 feet away. It's really just so much more fun to look at the stuff and smell it, and when you're able to smell it and interact, then you can really start seeing like, what am I naturally drawn to? And so California, the stores are missing out on that experience, whereas again, go to your friend's house, they'll smoke a joint with you, you can look at all their weed, maybe they'll let you play one of their guys on GTA or whatever. Just a better experience from beginning to end.
We love popping lids.
What's that, Rico?
But quality aside, I mean, I get the argument around quality. There has to be price parity, right? No one's going to pay more, right? So if you're going to pay less, isn't price like the most important product attribute? Especially because, again, like, I guess the thing that's going to get people into the dispensary are to buy products that you just can't buy on the black market. So I'm thinking like beverages and other things that maybe there aren't.
You can buy beverages and all that stuff on the black market. There's no.
Yeah, I guess you can buy that on the black market now, Jason. But really, I mean, doesn't there have to be the price parity in order for the legal market to really take over the black market?
Well,
it's the only way it'll work.
They're selling eighths anywhere from, I don't know, $10, isn't that what Glass House is selling them for, upwards to $60, $80. So you can get cheap cannabis, but the quality, you're usually getting older cannabis if you're paying the $10 that's been hanging around.
Yeah, Glass House is unsmokable.
Whoa.
No, I was gonna say it's interesting because a lot of unrefined palates when it comes to the wine world will buy a bottle of wine just because it's
$2 Chuck.
Just because the bottle,
$2 Chuck.
Looks good.
I remember.
Right? Yeah.
And how many?
It ain't $2 no more. Thanks, Joe Biden.
How many housewives keep that box of wine in their refrigerator?
Ugh.
I mean, I've gone to tons of houses and seen boxes of wine in the fridge in my day.
Who are you hanging out with, man? I've never seen boxes.
I grew up in a trailer park. Elise. I mean, come on.
Okay. Sorry. I didn't know that.
Easy there.
It's not a house, Jason.
That's right. It's a home, Rico.
I used to put box wine in beer bongs and just chug that shit.
Yeah, I feel you.
I mean, people love White Claw, and I would never touch it. I call that the distillate of, alcoholic beverages.
It's a very fair point. I would never touch a White Claw either, but I know a ton of females that love White Claw that just love those things.
Yeah.
Coming out with my own Black Claw. How about that?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh man, are you clawing back? All right, Dr. Mark, do you have your story, Dr. Mark? If not, we'll go to Mathieu St.
Story, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, no, I have my story.
I love it.
Want to hear about the guy who smoked the bong head?
Yeah, let's hear the story.
Okay. So, Fish fan banned from Sphere for bong rips, no regrets. So a Fish fan's bid for Stoner Glory at the April 20th concert has earned him a burn notice that extends to some of the biggest arenas in the country, but he'll be able to claim he was the first and perhaps the last to take a bong rip at the Sphere. Yes, indeed, folks. Weeks ago, Instagram user Acid Farts, I'm not making it up, it's really a real user, Acid_Farts, who declined to share his real name with Rolling Stone, uploaded a video of himself blowing a plume of pot smoke inside the $2 billion Las Vegas venue ahead of a set of the jam band on what many consider a cannabis holiday, right? 420, right? Not that your lyrical typical fish head limits their consumption to only one day a year. It was his third and final night of seeing them play, he says, and he didn't want to try to bring in the bong, which he brought into town on his flight home to the West Coast. So he lit it up one more time to cheers and applause from his section and later dispensed with the glassware. I didn't want to walk around with Vegas with it all night, so I just threw it out on the way out. Of course, by the time Acid Farts emerged from the psychedelic show, his clip was already viral on the online fish community. He also tagged the official arena account to notify them of his stunt. Well, maybe not the smartest thing to do, right, Guy? When it says clearly you're not supposed to be smoking inside. So that was maybe a little oops, he said. Having lost his Wi-Fi signal shortly after posting on Instagram, he realized how widely the footage was circulating until it was too late for him to do anything about it. The veteran of 187 fish concerts, let's see, I'm on 300 something. How far are you, Elise? You're probably more than me. So this guy's been to 187 fish concerts. Who has caught the Vermont band live consistently from the age of 13 to his current late 30s, recalls thinking, well, I guess I'm going to have to live with this decision. So you can actually see a video on his Instagram page, again, Acid Farts, of him blowing out the smoke to applause from the audience that was watching. So despite the Sphere's strictly enforced prohibition of smoking, including electronic cigarettes, anywhere on the premises, Acid Farts did not face immediate consequences for his action. In fact, as he made plans to see Dead & Company at the Sphere on June 6th, right, that was yesterday, to celebrate his friend's 40th birthday, the pair agreed that he seemed to be in the clear. However, at Acid Farts believed it was his purchase of the Dead & Company ticket this weekend that triggered a June 3rd legal notice that was delivered by FedEx to his home as he was preparing to head to the airport. So check it out. This guy's getting ready to go to the airport, to fly to Vegas, to go see Dead & Company after he did this back in April. So this just happened just yesterday. So I opened it up and there was a letter in it saying that you're banned from going to the Sphere. He says, I was like, I'm literally leaving for the Sphere right now. The letter from the venue operator of Madison Square Garden Entertainment, which Rolling Stone has independently confirmed as genuine, also bars Acid Farts from the New York venues of Madison Square Garden, a perennial stop for Fish, known for playing their New Year's Eve gig there, Radio City Music Hall, and the Beacon Theater, as well as the Chicago Theater. Yet, Acid Farts says there's only... there are other places to see Fish, and he has no regrets. Well, apart from one, I'll never see the Rockets at Radio City Hall, he jokes. Representatives of the entertainment company directed Rolling Stone to the ban notice and declined for further comment. Still, Acid Farts believe his misadventure raises the issue of privacy in live entertainment spaces. Venues, promoters, ticket sellers, and even artists have ramped up data collection efforts in recent years to point to the average concert goer may not always be realized how their behavior is being tracked. Madison Square Garden Entertainment in particular has faced criticism for using facial recognition technology. Yes, that's right, folks. Facial recognition technology or facial recognition technology, rather, to identify attorneys whose firms are engaged in litigation against the company and having security eject them from the shows, even, yes, including the Rockets at Radio City Hall. Be sure, alerting a venue that you're breaking the rules makes for a different case entirely, though Acid Farts nonetheless likens it to lions going after flies and sees this as a bad business model with other attendees at the Sphere openly posting themselves taking a hit of vape pens and dab rigs. Oh my God, people brought dab rigs inside the Sphere, crazy. We also got a weird vibe the last time he saw Fish at Madison Square Garden in 2017, after which he decided, I don't think I'm going to go back. I'm on the West Coast. It's an East Coast show. It's like, oh, I can't go to MSG in the winter anymore. I'm okay with that. He's appealing the band, and that's an option. Though, if not, he'll settle for the members of Fish autographing his band letter. I really like wearing it like a badge of honor, he explains, and he has already has an idea for how to make the most out of the incident by selling a t-shirt, maybe reading "Free Acid Farts" with the proceeds going to Ray Anastasio's Divided Sky Foundation, which is a good foundation. It's dedicated towards addiction and throwing money at a halfway house here in Vermont. A new addiction recovery center, again, that's the one down here in Vermont, founded by Fish frontman Trey Anastasio. In any case, he notes that in his story is a pantheon of Fish now, and the Fish fans are free to run with it. And for those wondering just what strain Acid Farts was packing at the Sphere, he reveals a sour diesel man for life, he says. What he won't share is exactly how he smuggled the sizable bong into the arena in the first place. That's a no comment, he says with a laugh. That's a trade secret. So that's the story about the Fish fan who went inside the Sphere with a big old bong on 420, ripped a big old bong rip and blew it out, and now he's banned from their arenas. So I guess this does bring up a very interesting point about facial recognition and realizing that, there's cameras everywhere. You're constantly being watched when you're out in the public. So if you're doing something in the public, just assume that you're on some security camera somewhere. But using that to keep somebody out of an arena, that's kind of dirty. But we've heard that Madison Square Garden does this, and they'll actually pull people from line, even though they bought a ticket, and say, you've been banned, so you're out. You can't come in. Right? But that's my story today. Happy Friday from the lovely state of Vermont. I'd be interested in what my other correspondents have to say on this lighthearted story.
Oh my God, I have to jump in here.
Go for it.
I was following this live, saw it go viral when he did it, and I was, having FOMO as I'm a huge Fish head and wish I was there. I've been known to bring my Puffco into many shows and venues and take many dabs, and I was watching him with his bong and like, I'm going to do that with my rig. And then when I saw he was banned, I was like, whoa, like how brutal. And to never be able to go to MSG or the Sphere or those venues again, and knowing that that facial recognition software is real. I mean, I love his spirit and his attitude, that he's staying positive and the creative thinking around it, like Free Acid Farts and giving back to Trace Foundation, like way to keep a positive outlook. And he's right that you can see Fish in many more amazing places. But this is brutal because, again, like I love bringing my Puffco into a show. And actually at one venue here in the Bay Area down by Stanford, I have a great relationship with security. I tell them it's my medical device. That's what it is. I'm bringing it in. A supervisor okayed it. I go there all the time and I bring it in and it's no issue, And it's kind of a bummer that we can't have these devices at shows, at least in places where consuming cannabis is legal. And in many cases we're outside. We should be able to vaporize and consume cannabis with our delivery method of choice as much as people can, have a beer or smoke a cigarette. And again, in many cases, it's a medical use. So again, I'll leave it to the others on your opinions. But yeah, this guy's a legend, and also I love fish, and can't wait to go see Deadco with the Sphere myself.
You know what needs to happen, Elise, right? And I think you'll agree with me, Dr. Mark. But Fish needs to incorporate this guy Acid Farts into their show. And just take him on tour with him everywhere, and just have him like with a disposable bong that like he'll throw out into the crowd. You know what I mean? At every
like the
show.
naked dude, right?
Yeah, yeah. They need to. That's what Fish needs to do, and all the Fish fans should be reaching out to Fish and demanding this from them.
I think he should file a lawsuit because they should have never let him in.
Well, hold on. To that point, Rico, someone's getting fired because whoever let this guy in, whichever security guard let this guy through with a bong in his bag, is definitely getting canned.
I'm sure he hit it well. Fish fans and hippies are very.
Are you
savvy.
saying that he keistered it, Elise?
It looks a bit big for that.
And Elise, on your point,
Oreo on it.
On your point, Elise, I don't understand why anyone would want to go to MSG, because we have MSG right here every day.
Hey,
Just
but seriously though, I've been banned from a couple of Las Vegas clubs.
You tell.
And like 3 years later, I got plucked out of line for just the exact same thing.
I mean, I remember this happening. Yeah, This is not uncommon. I remember a bunch of MJ Biz conferences ago, probably still when it was still before it was adult use. And everyone knows Hitman Doug went and like took a dab over at in the MGM casino, or you know what I'm saying, in the mall area, whatever, you know exactly where it was. I don't remember, but nonetheless in the MGM property, and he got a lifetime ban from all MGM properties, and they use facial recognition there.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, I have videos of me hitting my butt toe at the Costco. And all over.
This is before all of that.
Okay.
This is when like you have a rig and a torch, and you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
I do.
At least you got pretty privilege. You do what you want.
The last time I was in Vegas, high as balls, I was hitting my DMT pen on the casino floor at the Cosmo. It doesn't smell like weed, so I think everybody just assumed it was a non-cannabis, like a nicotine vape.
It was a Zin.
Yeah, I feel like there's so many of them. Yeah, it's hard for them to police it. But I have had a vape pen, and I have had security say you can't consume that in here, as opposed to just throwing people out. I have seen that also.
Yeah, during the F1 races, I smoked weed with the staff. So they were there.
That's an F1 for the win right there, Rico.
I guess so.
You ready to roll them? Ready to roll the Matthew?
Yes.
Let's do it.
Oh,
Speaking of F1.
With our final story of the day, we have the man tuning in from the astral plane. He's taking a break from his acid farts, plugged in, and he's ready to bless us with another awesome story for the simulation. Coming to the stage, no other than the immortal cannabis wizard himself, Mathieu St. Germain.
You, Brother Rico. Thanks, everybody. You know, I got the nickname MSG on the East Coast from all my East Coast Grateful Dead loving fans. Exactly my initials, but I'll take it. So I have a story that's kind of a mixed bag today. Setback for psychedelic therapy. FDA advisors vote against medical use of ecstasy. Independent expert panel, and that's important to note, an independent expert panel. It's not the actual FDA. It's poured cold water on hopes that MDMA, better known as the party drug ecstasy, could be part of a new treatment for PTSD. First psychedelic drug with regulatory approval in the United States. Advisory committee convened by the U.S. FDA concluded yesterday that clinical trial data provided by Lykos Therapeutics not enough to show that MDMA-assisted psychotherapy was effective and safe. The decision marks a reversal of fortune for MDMA. FDA granted the drug an expedited review process in 2017 based on encouraging early reports about its ability, in combination with talk therapy, to alleviate PTSD that affects millions, including some military veterans. That possibility has been a centerpiece of the recent renaissance of medical research on psychedelic drugs. Ongoing clinical trials are testing several psychedelics to treat all kinds of conditions. Press release issued after the meeting, Lykos Therapeutics emphasized that FDA is not bound by the committee's decision. While we are disappointed in the vote, we are committed to continue to collaborate with the FDA with their ongoing review of our NDA, which is a drug application. The all-day meeting, committee members had to grapple not just with the data from 2 phase 3 clinical trials, but also with allegations that participants were pressured to not report negative outcomes, and horrifically enough, with a case of sexual misconduct by one therapist in one of the earlier stage trials. Committee's decision is truly bizarre, says David Nutt, a pharmacologist at Imperial College London, and longtime psychedelics researcher. It calls into question a regulatory system that allows new versions of potentially lethal opioids for pain. It denies the most novel and safe intervention for treatment-resistant PTSD ever seen. If FDA follows the panel, it would be very deleterious for the field, he said. According to the Department of Veteran Affairs, about 13 million adults in the U.S. suffer from PTSD in any given year. Haunted by the memory of a traumatic event, their bodies are responding as if there's the same level of threat as when the event was actually occurring. These 2 Lykos trials conducted in the U.S., Israel, and Canada included close to 200 people with PTSD received a course of psychotherapy that included 3 8-hour sessions with either MDMA or a placebo. A combination of the drug and the talk therapy is meant to help patients relive and process their traumatic memory. Member after member of the advisory committee raised concerns about how to interpret this data. One challenge that has long plagued psychedelic research is how to keep study participants blinded, being unaware of which study arm they're in, actual drug or placebo. You can tell when you're high. Data from the second trial revealed that more than 90% of those in the MDMA arm and 75% of those in the placebo arm correctly guessed their group. A briefing document released before the meeting, FDA warned that this functional unblinding could allow patients' and therapists' expectations to bias the results. But counters that concerns about unblinding are overblown and would apply equally to other drugs such as antipsychotics, but often aren't. Why focus it on here? Actors of psychedelics are hiding their prejudice, moral objections, dislike of illegal drugs behind a sort of pseudoscientific smokescreen. Follow-up study that included 137 patients from the phase 3 trials showed a durable effect of MDMA from 6 months to more than 2 years later. That finding, too, is difficult to interpret because with those with more positive experiences might have been more likely to take part in the follow-up study. Further complicating the debate was the fact that members were asked to decide on the efficacy not of MDMA alone, but the combination of MDMA and psychotherapy. FDA does not regulate the practice of psychotherapy, and so this is kind of like a weird way of trying to fit this thing through this trial system. Especially looming over the meeting was a report by the Institute for Clinical and Economic Review. They were an independent nonprofit that analyzed the evidence for clinical and cost effectiveness of treatments. They alleged, based on interviews with those with first or secondhand knowledge of the trials and related events, therapists encouraged favorable reports by patients, discouraged negative reports, including reports of substantial harm. The meeting, Lykos' senior medical director, Alia Lillenstein, denied specific allegations that some participants were discouraged from participating in the long-term follow-up study, didn't respond to the suggestion that therapists discouraged patients' negative reports. Lykos did acknowledge that one participant in a phase 2 trial was sexually abused by her therapist. Mandating specific training and qualifications for therapists might help protect vulnerable patients from harm during these sessions. For most members of the panel, the combination of misconduct allegations and the uncertainties about how to interpret the data to create an unsurmountable hurdle for these tests. It's actually strange to vote no when trial data suggested such a clear effect from the drug, one of the committee members, Atish Iyengar, a statistician at the University of Pittsburgh, said while explaining his vote. But there were just too many problems. So this is really sad news, and the number one thing it looks like is that apps and their sister company, for-profit company Lykos, really fumbled this in just about every way, shape, or form. From additional reading I've done, they really created kind of a cultish group around this, and they really are guilty of trying to push the results instead of just present or more straight ahead results in this. And so it's not the end for MDMA, for PTSD or other therapies. It's not the end of psychedelic research. I think that this report from the advisory panel really points to the fact that if we're going to get these drugs okayed, we need to have more stringent, not even equally stringent trial measures. Everybody needs to be focused on their best behavior, on really getting the clearest, most transparent studies so we can push these forward. And as for the allegation of sexual misconduct, all I can say is that's horrific, and I'm just disgusted and blown away by it. That being said, there is an underground group of psychotherapists that's been expanding throughout the country, but a huge group centered here in the Bay Area that have been using MDMA for PTSD, talk therapy, and couples therapy since the 60s and 70s. And it's really well known that the substance has great efficacy and effect in helping humans to heal, either by itself or with talk therapy. And so I, for one, just hope to see better studies, better trials done, and people taking Rick Doblin to task, because he really spearheaded MAPS and Lycos blowing a for sure touchdown effort here. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to share.
Yeah, this is such an interesting study. It's got a real twisted argument that they've used against THC as well. You can feel the high, so you can't tell the difference between the placebo and the treatment. And because you can feel the high, then it's not a good study. I think it's a twisted logic, but that's really why THC pills are 10 milligrams or less, because that's right at the border of feeling the high.
Really? That's why they did that number.
Yeah, I talked with Ethan Russo about this. This is why
I've always wondered that. I have always wondered that. So then, basically,
that is definitely one problem. I mean, for me, the biggest, putting the sexual assault, because I think that has nothing to do with the trial itself and more to do with that particular therapist. The fact that they were coaching people to either take part or not take part in the study, and the therapists were really, several of the therapists have been found, not by any committee or certifying body, but by just a preponderance of the evidence, have been found to be coaching people to reach their outcomes in one way or the other. It's just screwed up and invalidated something that could have led to help for millions of Americans to stay off of these other antipsychotics and SSRIs, to really heal their emotional body and their minds, and have all that payable by insurance, and you just fumbled it at the 1 yard line because you're trying to aim the study.
Yeah,
I don't think that was necessary.
I totally agree with you, Matthew, and I hope the medical board or whatever oversight that oversights whoever these people that are doing these studies definitely reams this guy, removes his license or whatnot, because and it's just especially disheartening that they were doing a study on MDMA, which we all know what MDMA does, and the fact that there was a sexual assault while someone was on MDMA, to me just bothers me even more.
Well, and also it's hard enough to get a drug approved, and then on top of that, a very controversial drug that's already has stigma and seen as a party drug, or has all these extra hurdles on top of it.
Let's just call it euphoric effects, Elise.
Right. And, euphoric effects and immense benefits. I mean, there's no room for error. You can't be messing things up. And they're going to look for every reason to not approve you. And there was just such a long list of things that they messed up here. And of course, the sexual misconduct being the most offensive and alarming, but really there's so many boxes that they just failed to check or really fumbled, and it's a bummer. And but the sexual misconduct thing is also unfortunately something that didn't just happen in this study, but has been going on in the movement, and is something that all need to be aware of, and why a lot of women need to take precaution before just going to any ceremony or supposed practitioner.
100%. And I think those benefits that you were referring to, Elise, would be commonly referred to as friends with benefits.
Oh, God. I'm interested to see the fallout, and I'm interested to see both the large corporate and wealthy donor side to MAPS, as well as the shareholders and donors to Lycos, taking Doblin to task, and kind of what the fallout is going to be after this. This is definitely a developing story, and is going to produce some news and some waves for some going forward.
And you'll keep us updated on this, on the continuance of this, correct, Matthew?
know it. You know it.
All
Don't
right.
be dissuaded, you guys. Take ecstasy.
trying.
Listen to the Grateful Dead. Some LSD. Go to the park. Love yourself,
Sasha
love your neighbor.
Shogun.
Get some
Or why not?
2CB.
Why not hit a bong and take an acid fart?
I do have to digress too and say I really liked hearing Dr. Mark say acid farts over and over in his scholarly professorial voice. Mr. Acid Farts.
We're gonna have to make a soundbite out of that and just put it a loop it.
Acid farts.
So, Jean, just to touch on this again, this is kind of like traversing that topic of accepted medical use, right? So when the FDA says no, there's no medical use, because MDMA is Schedule 1, isn't that correct? I think it's right. Yeah, it's still Schedule 1.
Yep.
But it's interesting that the class of drugs it belongs to, which are the amphetamines, are all like on lower schedules, right? And so, so there is accepted medical use for amphetamine and amphetamine derivatives, but this is kind of like the bastard child because of Sasha Shogun's, whole blow up of this thing and the ecstasy scene that it created. I think this molecule in particular belongs to a family of amphetamines that are all lower on the schedule. So,
Well, actually, I mean, pharmaceutical amphetamines are Schedule 1 now. Things like Adderall and Vyvanse, those are all Schedule 1.
oh no, you can't.
No, they can't be because they're prescribable.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah,
they're not
those are
Schedule 1.
prescribed, and so they have that. That's just the point I'm making.
Schedule 2, they're
Elise,
high
is that
levels, they're harder to get prescriptions.
Oh, they may be written in triplicate form as far as the prescription, but they are not Schedule 1 drugs.
but they have an accepted medical use, right? Because a doctor like John could write a prescription for Adderall for some kid with ADD or ADHD, right? So that would be a lower schedule, right? But John, I don't know. What do you think about kids with ADD and ADHD, giving them Ritalin and Adderall? Doesn't that just basically get these kids lined up to be meth heads later on in life?
That would be an interesting study. But remember, the scheduling is not done by scientists. It's done by police officers, Department of Justice. And they can do crazy things with their scheduling.
Right.
And they have with cannabis, clearly, where they synthetic cannabis and synthetic THC is Schedule 5, right?
Right.
While
I was going to say, this before when we were talking about this accepted medical use versus non-accepted, or all cannabis use is medical. Is the FDA and the DEA, I believe, view recreational use as an abuse of a medically accepted drug. There is no recreational using of drugs, right? And so they view as the recreational use as being you're abusing something that has accepted medical use. And again, that's where this flies in the face of reality, because whether people are using it recreationally or they're using it just to knock off a little bit of stress at the end of the day, they're using it because they feel good and they are being medically treated by that cannabis. But when we use the term recreational use, it kind of, is two steps backwards, because of this reason. They view as recreational use is nothing but abuse.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Hard to end on such a down note.
Yeah, I was, man, especially with an MDMA story.
Yeah.
Rico, what do you have for us, Rico? You gonna end it on a high note? Did you freeze up?
Is he frozen?
Did he have a?
Yeah.
Oh man, he's frozen. He's like little baby Elsa. Oh man, son.
We've got Madame Tussauds Wax Museum Rico over there.
Exactly. Man.
So go to Fisherman's Wharf this weekend for the debut of the Rico Lamitte wax figure at Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. While you're there, stop by next door at the Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to all of our sponsors, Catalyst, Stretch and Smoke, highly educated, and all of you else's out there. Thank you all to our correspondents for being absolutely, truly amazing. And thank you all to you for tuning in every day and watching us and listening to all of this craziness. That's right. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners. Adam in the building today. Yes, feathering his hair. That's right. And we are America's #1 daily cannabis news show, High at 9 News. You have a fantastic weekend, and we will see you all on Monday morning.